Salut guys! Welcome back to Unintentionally Frenchified. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and of course hit the bell notification so that you can get a little alert every time that I'm coming at you with new Frenchified content. So this week I'm diving into all of the reasons why Europeans with a focus on French love America. I actually did not create this list on my own. I polled among some of my different French and European friends what they love about the States and I made the video. So I can't wait to hear what you guys think about it. Please just keep in mind that of course too much of a good thing doesn't make it so good at the end. So all of the things I'm going to talk about, if you take it too far, it goes from being a positive thing to a negative thing. So keep this in mind when you're leaving your comments. Try to keep your American positive mindset in mind as you're watching the video. If you're ready, c'est parti! The fascination with the Wild West and the cowboys is apparently not just a French thing, but a very European thing. And it dates back to when Europe was struggling with industrialization and imperialism, and I guess the Wild West of America was kind of like a nice escape from reality for them. But honestly, this just seems to really be a period that's like romanticized and idealized in American history. The iconic American cowboy on his best friend, his horse, with his shotgun here on his hip, riding off into the sunset, like protecting others and protecting himself. It's really a period, just kind of the same way that we idealize medieval times in Europe or Egyptian times. It's the same kind of thing. Probably not as great as we think, but there were a lot of films, a lot of comic books, a lot of books. I mean, you name it, there was a lot of things created in Europe around this period in American history. So the knowledge of this period and the love for American cowboys is present in Europe, and there is actually in France a country rendezvous festival in the south every July that attracts more than 20,000 people, where they play country music, they ride bulls, they wear their cowboy hats, their cowboy boots. So who knew? Very popular. Now, the fast food one is a little tricky because the French love, and I mean love, to mock American food because it is nowhere near as refined as French food, which is true. But the French are also capable of like completely slaughtering the Italians for using too much olive oil or not having enough like variety in their plates. So who can actually criticize Italian food? I don't know. So I think the French are a tough crowd to please. So anyways, the French don't want to live on fast food forever. However, when they do visit the US, they love the variety of fast food. In France, it tends to be like burgers, like a Quick or McDonald's or Burger King, but in the US, they come and you can get like Mexican fast food, Asian fast food, Italian fast food. The options are endless. Not to mention in France, people tend to be a little bit more snooty and I don't know, a little more judgy about eating fast food too often, whereas in the US, it's a little bit more flexible. And so I know that the French also find that a little bit liberating, like go to the US, try all the fast food, eat as much as you want, and then they're probably pretty happy to come back home and get back into their normal routine. Now, when it comes to entertainment, of course we can mention the very obvious one, Hollywood, and all of the films and all the TV shows that are shown worldwide. But I think you also have to think of the entertainment idea in the US in general. Think about like when you go to the stadium to watch a sports match. There's not just the game. There's the lights, there's the music, there's the announcer, there's the cheerleaders, there's the dancer. What about the halftime show, the mascot? I mean, the list is endless. It is a ridiculous amount of entertainment. And this idea of entertainment just isn't the same in France. And when you go to like a sporting match, again, it's not going to be that same type of entertainment. So that's a really fun part that the French get to experience when they come to the US. Americans just tend to be more welcoming when they meet strangers. And so the French really love that when they're in the US. Now, I'm talking about quick interactions, like when you're shopping and you ask somebody for help, when you're at an information desk, when you're in a restaurant, for example. These very quick interactions, they just tend to be a bit more pleasant than what the French are used to in France. Though on the flip side, of course, sometimes it can be a little bit too much when they meet very overly friendly Americans. Remember when my husband first came to the US with us and we were at a restaurant with my family and we had this really lovely waitress who was serving us, and she was an older woman in her late 50s, early 60s, and she kept calling Robin honey. So like, what can I get you, honey? And you know, honey, like, do you want some more water? And she was just really friendly. And at one point Robin was like, I don't get it. Like, why is she calling me Sherry? Like, it's very embarrassing. It's like borderline inappropriate. So of course it can go a little bit too far sometimes for the French, but in general, those like quick interactions are just a little bit happier, more carefree in the US. Everything is huge in the US compared to Europe, and that's really fun for them to see in the States. When I say everything, I literally mean almost everything. Even when they visit, you know, a lot of people from Europe and France are visiting bigger cities like New York or Boston or Los Angeles, where maybe there is less room, but still it's so much bigger than what they're used to in Europe that it still seems huge. Think bigger houses, think bigger cars, bigger roads, like the 6-lane, 7-lane, 8-lane highways that you can see, even the serving sizes, the glasses. It's like almost everything you can think of is bigger. I think we really take the whole go big or go home to heart in the US. And one of my favorite things is when we go home and my parents have glasses, like individual serving glasses. Robin is always like surprised and loved by the size of the glasses. And I feel like when we go to his parents' house, they serve us water in like shot glasses. I feel like they're so small. And when he comes to the US and we're at my parents' house, he's like, the size of the glasses for me, like my glass is the same size as a pitcher of water at my dad's house on the table. And I'm like, the bigger, the better. The French love how everything is very convenient for them when they come to the US. Think of all the drive-thrus that we have. Think of the 24-hour stores that are open, or at least the stores don't close during the lunch hour, even if they aren't open 24 hours. Or think of like our one-stop shops where you can go and buy your groceries, also get a new flat screen TV, and buy a new pair of running shoes all in the same place. It's such a now culture and easy peasy, and what can I do to make it easiest to consume as often as you can? And that's just not the case in France. The French absolutely do not want this in their own country. They're quite happy that this is a lifestyle choice that stays in the US, but they do enjoy like visiting it and getting to try it out. And I remember my ex-boyfriend, he loved the fact that not only do we have free refills often, but also that the machines sometimes are on the side so consumers are able to get up and actually refill like their own glass himself. He thought that was like crazy cool. Americans tend to be positive as a whole. Now, I don't mean in the same sense as when we talked about these quick interactions that are a bit more pleasant in the US than in France. I really mean that Americans are brought up to kind of have this can-do attitude, like keep on trying, anything's possible, stay positive and you can overcome it. And the French are not. The French tend to be complainers as a whole, and I did an entire video on this actually, and it's not necessarily because they're unhappier than people in the US, but it's just that culturally they're taught to talk about more of the negative sides of things and to complain, and so it is kind of nice and refreshing for them to go to a country where people just tend to see the brighter side of things rather than maybe the more râleur or negative side of what's going on. American positivity is just a nice change from time to time. Let's finish off with a point that got quite a bit of votes during my polling, which was cars, which is kind of an oxymoron because the French don't tend, most Europeans don't really tend to buy American cars because they're too big and bulky for the roads here. They guzzle gas compared to European cars, and I think a lot of people would argue that they're cheaply made compared to other countries, so people aren't running around here to buy up American cars. However, the French do love American cars in the US because, surprise, surprise, for their size, they are huge compared to what they're used to in Europe. And Robin loves, for example, on my dad's truck, that when he opens the door, there's an automatic stair that shoots out, because if there wasn't, you wouldn't actually be able to get into the truck, especially if you're on the shorter side. So everything is just bigger. But also there are some really iconic cars like the Mustang, for example, that really tend to embody the American dream, or at least how people saw that 50 years ago in Europe when they were really wanted, lived this American dream and loved this idea of the American dream. The Mustang was kind of like a car that really spoke that American dream. So it also has to do with a bit of these iconic cars and iconic moments in history that the French and Europeans are really made aware of. It's almost like living your movie fantasy life in real life when you actually see the cars. Alright guys, that is all for this week. I would love to hear in the comments below what you think I should add to the list. What are the things that Europeans and French really love about the US? I put a link down in the video description if you want to give any ideas or subjects for a next video. Please fill out the form. I would love to get an idea of what you guys want to see as well and make sure I'm making stuff that interests everybody. So otherwise, I'll see everybody next week. Bisous!